Too late. That single thought echoed through the minds of every alien standing on the observation platform. No one shouted. No one moved. No one even breathed. Across the reinforced transparent barrier, on the surface of the alien reserve world Kepri 9, a human stood just 3 steps away from a creature that entire civilizations feared to name aloud. The Venom Glider. Its presence alone was enough to paralyze seasoned soldiers. Its shadow had ended wars. Its venom, airborne, invisible, and fast, was known to dissolve nervous systems in seconds. Entire research teams had vanished trying to study it. Planets had been quarantined because of it, and now a human was reaching out toward it. Slowly, calmly, almost casually. "No, and no, stop him!" screeched High Biologist SRRK, her frilled crest flaring in panic as she slammed her clawed hands against the console. The warning came far too late. On the massive hollow display above the platform, the human's gloved hand crossed the final safety threshold line. The automated system blared alarms in 12 different alien languages. Biohazard proximity breach. Lethal contact imminent. Evacuation advised. But the human, Special Envoy Daniel Reeves of Earth, did not react. He didn't flinch. He didn't hesitate. He didn't pull back. Instead, he took one more step forward. Gasps rippled through the gathered delegates. Beings from over 30 different species, many of whom had never seen a Venom Glider in person and hoped they never would. The creature itself was a nightmare given form. Its body hovered a meter above the ground, supported by wide, translucent membranes that shimmered like oil-slick glass. Its elongated shape shifted constantly, as if reality itself struggled to hold it still. Veins of bioluminescent green pulsed beneath its semi-transparent skin, each pulse releasing microscopic clouds of venom into the air. Venom so potent that even exposure through sealed armor was usually fatal. Human Reeves, barked Commander Threx of the Vol Dominion, his mandibles clicking violently. "Withdraw immediately." Your species was informed. "This organism cannot be touched." Daniel didn't turn around. He didn't answer. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, studying the Venom Glider like a curious child observing a strange animal for the first time. Behind the glass, panic escalated. "They don't understand," cried Ambassador Helia of the Luminari. "Their nervous systems aren't adapted. This isn't bravery, it's ignorance." "No," Sararka whispered, her voice trembling. "This is worse. Humans were warned. Repeatedly. The warnings had been clear. When Earth first joined the Galactic Accord, humans were classified as class-moderate deathworlders. Dangerous, adaptable, but still fragile compared to apex galactic species. During orientation, they were given a list. Things humans must never touch. The Venom Glider was at the top, right above stellar singularities and temporal fractures. And yet here Daniel was. The platform shook slightly as the Venom Glider shifted its position, turning toward the human. Its countless sensory nodes flickered, locking onto him. The venom density in the air spiked sharply, triggering another wave of alarms. Several delegates backed away instinctively. "This is it," Commander Threx muttered. "He's already dead. He just doesn't know it yet." SRRK closed her eyes. She had seen this before. Species who thought themselves special. Brave explorers who believed fear was weakness. Curious scientists who crossed lines meant to protect them. None survived first contact with a Venom Glider. None. The creature drifted closer to Daniel, its membranes expanding, casting a sickly green glow across the barren terrain. The ground beneath it hissed softly as the venom settled, corroding stone into brittle dust. Daniel finally spoke. His voice was calm, steady, and, somehow, gentle. "It's okay," he said softly. Every alien on the platform froze. "It's okay," he repeated, lowering himself slightly so he was no longer towering over the creature. "I'm not here to hurt you." Confusion rippled through the observation deck. "He's talking to it," Helia whispered. "That thing doesn't communicate," SRRK said weakly. "It doesn't listen." The Venom Glider hovered mere centimeters from Daniel now. The air between them shimmered violently. Any second, the venom would breach his suit seals. Any second, his muscles would lock. Any second, his heart would stop. Daniel removed his helmet. A collective scream erupted behind the barrier. "Is he insane?" someone shouted. The automated system went berserk. Environmental seal breach. Human fatality probability, 99.97%. Daniel inhaled. Deeply, unprotected, the venom swirled around his face. Seconds passed, then more seconds. He didn't collapse. His skin didn't blister. His eyes didn't glaze over. He didn't even cough. Instead, he smiled. And then, slowly, deliberately, Daniel extended his bare hand. The venom glider reacted instantly. Its membranes flared wide. Its bioluminescent veins blazed brighter than ever before. Venom concentrations spiked off the charts. SRR Ka screamed again. "Turn it off. Cut the feed. I can't watch this." But no one moved. They were transfixed, because something impossible was happening. The venom glider didn't attack. It didn't recoil. It leaned in, ever so slightly. Its form stabilized. The constant distortion around its body lessened. The violent pulses slowed, syncing, somehow, with the rhythm of the human's breathing. Daniel's fingers brushed against its surface. Direct contact. No barrier. No protection. Skin to alien flesh. Time seemed to stop. On every sensor, on every screen, the data made no sense. Venom absorption detected. Human vitals stable. Neural activity normal. Commander Threx stared in disbelief. That venom should have liquefied his brain. SRR Ka's voice was barely a whisper. It should have killed him before he touched it. Daniel rested his hand gently against the creature, not gripping, not pressing, just there. The venom glider emitted a low, resonant hum. Not aggressive, not threatening, almost content. Behind the glass, fear slowly gave way to something far more dangerous. Realization. By the stars, Helia murmured. What if we were wrong? SRR Ka swallowed hard. All her life, she had studied the venom gliders as monsters, forces of nature meant only to be avoided. But the creature hovering before them wasn't behaving like a monster. It was behaving like an animal, a cautious one. And the human? The human looked familiar, not as a conqueror, not as a warrior, but as something far more unsettling. A creature from a world where danger was touched, studied, named, and sometimes befriended. On the surface of Kepri 9, Daniel Reeves smiled softly as the venom glider hovered closer, its lethal aura fading like a receding storm. Behind him, the galaxy realized the truth far too late. Humans didn't survive death worlds by avoiding danger. They survived by learning when and how to reach out and touch it. The observation platform shook with disbelief. No one moved. No one spoke. Only the faint hum of machinery and the occasional gasp filled the air. The venom glider, the universe's most feared predator, hovered calmly over the human's hand. It was as if centuries of instinct, terror, and lethal precision had suddenly been overridden by curiosity. Every alien delegate on Kepri 9 had come prepared to witness a death. What they saw instead was impossible. A human, seemingly fragile, unarmored, and untrained for the species' extreme toxicity, was calmly interacting with a creature that could have ended him in an instant. The first ripple of panic was followed by disbelief, then fear, and finally awe. Some species were so shocked that their communication systems went silent. Others frantically took notes, analyzing data from sensors that screamed warnings every second. High biologist SRR Ka, trembling, finally broke the silence. This shouldn't be happening, she whispered to herself, almost as if speaking aloud could summon the impossible back into reality. He should be dead. He cannot survive contact with a venom glider. Commander Threx, mandibles clicking nervously, barked into his communicator. This is not a drill. Repeat, not a drill. Evacuate all personnel. Human Reeves is... He trailed off, unable to find words. In his centuries of military experience, he had never prepared for this. Across the galaxy, news traveled faster than light. Starships in orbit around distant colonies picked up transmissions of HFY sensors. Within hours, what was meant to be a classified observation of a dangerous experiment turned into the most viral broadcast in galactic history. Every intelligent species that had a galactic network tuned in. Humans. They were always underestimated. And now, they had done something no one had thought possible. Daniel Reeves remained calm, his expression gentle, almost serene. His hand rested lightly on the alien's semi-transparent, pulsating skin. The Venom glider, for the first time in recorded history, didn't lash out or release deadly toxins. Instead, it hummed, a soft, rhythmic resonance that seemed almost like a purr. Observers struggled to comprehend what they were witnessing. The creature, feared as the ultimate predator, seemed tame. Not through fear, not through coercion, but through trust. Impossible, muttered Ambassador Helia, her 3 eyes blinking rapidly as she analyzed the readings. The neural activity alone should have triggered the Venom response. Yet, the human remains unharmed. Entirely unharmed. Even the sensors corroborated what no one could believe. Venom levels in the air were off the charts. Any other life form would have collapsed immediately. And yet, Daniel's vitals remained stable. Heart steady, brain activity normal, breathing calm. Behind the safety glass, the aliens began whispering to each other. They speculated frantically. Was this some kind of mutation? Some ancient symbiosis humans had developed over centuries on their home planet? Or was it simply instinct? But Daniel wasn't thinking about mutations or instinct. He was thinking about understanding. You're scared, he said softly, almost as if talking to a frightened child. But I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to know you. The Venom glider's membranes flickered, the pulsing green veins calming slightly. Its head turned, tracking Daniel's gaze. The lethal aura of the creature diminished. For the first time, an entire galaxy realized something crucial about humans. They didn't just survive danger, they approached it. Where others saw only death, humans saw challenges. Where others froze in fear, humans acted with patience and observation. And sometimes, that was enough to transform the deadliest predators into allies, or at least neutral parties. The shockwave from this event didn't stay confined to HFY. Fleet commanders, Galactic Council members, researchers, and scientists across star systems debated what they had just witnessed. Intelligence reports were scrambled, old assumptions questioned. Humans were no longer moderate deathworlders. They were now something else, something unpredictable. Back on the platform, Daniel gently moved his hand, and the Venom glider mirrored him in an almost playful gesture. The alien delegates gasped again. This was behavior that had never been recorded. Any contact with another species, let alone a human, should have ended in catastrophic venom release. Yet here, the creature moved in harmony, responding to a human touch. SRRK's voice, barely audible over the hum of sensors, whispered the words that everyone feared to admit. He's communicating with it. Communicating? Frex barked. That's impossible. No, Helia corrected, her voice tight with awe. Not communicating. Understanding. Connecting. For the humans watching through the feed, this was merely another day. For the aliens, it was a revelation that would redefine every interaction with humanity for decades to come. As the minutes ticked by, Daniel finally stepped back, letting the creature float freely. The Venom glider hovered for a moment, as if contemplating, then slowly drifted away, unthreatened, unharmed, leaving everyone staring in disbelief. Then Daniel turned toward the observation glass, gave a small nod, and spoke directly to the alien delegates watching him. Fear doesn't teach respect. Danger doesn't teach control. Understanding does. That's how humans survive. That's how we thrive. Silence fell over the platform once more. This time, it wasn't fear. It wasn't panic. It was comprehension. The galaxy, for the first time, glimpsed the essence of humanity, not just as survivors, but as challengers of the impossible. And far across the stars, those who had underestimated Earth began recalculating. Not just their strategies, not just their diplomacy, but their very assumptions about what humans were capable of. Because one human had done what countless species had feared. One human had touched a living legend and survived. The broadcast spread like wildfire. Within hours of the event on Kepri 9, star systems across the galaxy were flooded with feeds, reports, and live sensor data. Every intelligence network, every research station, and even private ships with comm relays were abuzz. The humans, so often underestimated, so often ignored, had done the impossible. News channels called it the touch of death. Defied. Scholars labeled it an evolutionary outlier. Strategists whispered of a species that redefines risk. And yet, the human himself, Daniel Reeves, didn't seem to care about headlines or notoriety. He walked away from the Venom glider, helmet in hand, calm, collected, almost casual. Behind the glass of the observation deck, the alien delegates were still frozen in disbelief. "This changes everything," Helia muttered, her eyes glued to the screens. "Everything we thought we knew about humans is wrong." High biologist SRRK clenched her claws around the console, shaking. "No, it's not just humans. It's survival instincts that we've never understood. Their brains, their nerves, they interact with danger differently. It's almost unnatural." Commander Threx, who had spent centuries commanding fleets and training soldiers to survive the deadliest threats in the galaxy, felt a chill creep over his exoskeleton. "They don't just survive," he said slowly, his mandibles clicking. "They learn survival in ways we can't predict. They are unpredictable." Indeed, unpredictability was the new human advantage. Across the galaxy, species had learned to fear the predictable. They had mapped every predator, every anomaly, every dangerous world. Humans didn't fit into those calculations. They were a variable no one could account for. And now, after what happened on Kepri 9, every council, fleet, and colony would have to. Meanwhile, Daniel Reeves collected himself, adjusting his gloves and breathing steadily. To him, the Venom glider wasn't a monster. It was an opportunity, a chance to understand, not destroy. That was the fundamental difference between humans and every other species in the galaxy. Humans didn't flee from what they feared. They studied it. They interacted with it. They sometimes, yes, touched the impossible and lived. Back on Kepri 9, the alien scientists began working furiously, analyzing every frame, every data packet, every atmospheric particle recorded during Daniel's contact. They attempted to model what had happened, but every calculation failed. The numbers didn't match the outcome. The venom concentration should have liquefied human neural tissue, yet the human's nervous system was intact. The sensory feedback mechanisms, the reflexes, the bioelectric responses, the micro-adjustments, none of it was like anything in the database. What is he?" SRRK whispered to herself, fear and all warring in her voice. Meanwhile, the Venom glider had returned to its habitat, drifting over the rocky plains of Kepri 9. Its membrane flared once, almost as if in recognition, then settled. For the first time in recorded observation, a Venom glider had reacted with what could only be called trust, and that trust had been granted by a human. The implications were staggering. Not just survival, but interaction. Not just observation, but connection. Humans weren't just dangerous. They were capable of rewriting the rules of engagement with the galaxy's most lethal predators. Across distant star systems, fleet commanders began issuing new directives. Reevaluate all human threat assessments. Do not assume predictable behavior. Treat with caution. No species can predict their reactions to danger. Diplomats scrambled. They needed to send new messages, revise protocols, issue warnings to colonies that had underestimated humans. The galaxy's previous calculations about humanity's capabilities were obsolete. Even within the Galactic Council, debates raged. Some species argued that humans were reckless and should be contained before they inadvertently destroyed something critical. Others argued that humans could be allies, capable of feats that no other species could achieve. All the while, Daniel Reeves remained quiet. His mission had never been about politics or proving a point. He had acted out of curiosity, observation, and the simple human instinct to reach out. It was a lesson the galaxy would not forget. By the next cycle, humans had become the subject of countless studies, both secret and public. Military analysts tried to understand their resilience. Xenobiologists attempted to decode their interaction with lethal species. And philosophers debated whether this event proved that humans were fundamentally different from all other sentient life. And yet, for Daniel, the answer was simple. Danger is not always an enemy. Fear is not always a signal to retreat. Sometimes reaching out, touching the unknown, was the only way to truly survive and understand. Back on Kepri 9, the aliens watched as Daniel's human presence faded into the horizon, his calm demeanor and unwavering confidence leaving an indelible mark on all who had witnessed it. They survived, Helia said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. And they weren't just lucky. They understood. SRR nodded slowly. It's not about immunity. It's about approach, calculation, instinct. Humans, they don't just avoid danger. They embrace it, learn from it, and sometimes turn it into something manageable. Commander Threx, hardened by countless battles and countless losses, felt a rare emotion stirring. Respect. Not fear, not anger, but a deep, instinctive recognition of a species that defied all expectations. The galaxy had long underestimated humanity, and now one simple act, a touch, calm and deliberate, had sent shockwaves across light years, reshaping strategy, science, and perception alike. The Venom glider had been just the beginning. Humans had shown that the impossible could be touched, the lethal could be understood, and the feared could be approached. And the galaxy had no choice but to take notice. By the time Daniel Reeves returned to his ship, the galaxy was already buzzing, not with alarm, not with mere curiosity, but with respect tinged with fear. Word spread faster than any hyperlight message could carry. From the Vald Dominion's command centers to the Luminari academies, from the outer research colonies to the bustling trade hubs, everyone who had access to the broadcast replayed it multiple times. Every hand on every console trembled as the human, unarmored and calm, reached out and touched the Venom glider. He survived and, unharmed, whispered a young alien officer at the edge of the Vol fleet. Her mandibles clicked nervously. He shouldn't even exist after that exposure. Across the galaxy, debates erupted. Some factions called Daniel a reckless madman, an unpredictable variable too dangerous to leave unsupervised. They wanted humans restricted, contained, observed. Others saw a glimmer of opportunity, a chance to cooperate with a species that had just demonstrated what no one else had dared: courage, ingenuity, and an instinctive understanding of life and death situations. Humans are extraordinary, said Ambassador Helia to her council colleagues. Her voice carried awe, tempered with disbelief. They don't just survive danger, they interact with it. They learn from it in real time. We've misjudged them for centuries. High biologist SRR, still shaking from the experience, muttered to herself, they aren't like us. They don't follow the rules of survival we know. Their physiology, their instincts, it's something entirely new. Something dangerous. Commander Threx, hardened by centuries of battle and leadership, leaned back in his chair, trying to suppress the anxiety crawling through him. They don't just adapt, he said finally. They reinvent the rules. And they've just shown the entire galaxy that we've been playing checkers while they've been mastering chess. Back on Earth's command vessel, Daniel didn't celebrate or boast. The mission had been simple: assess and understand alien fauna classified as lethal. But in doing so, he had inadvertently given humanity a reputation that would echo for decades. He knew that some would see him as reckless. Others would study every detail of his actions to replicate them. The Galactic Council immediately convened an emergency session. Species who had previously dismissed humanity as moderate or average now demanded answers. What is it about them? One counselor demanded, her voice tight with anxiety. They survive in situations that should destroy them. They interact with species that are lethal to all others. How we predict their next move? They're unpredictable, another replied, his claws clacking against the table. They have instincts we don't understand. And now, they've proven that our assumptions about the limits of life are wrong. The repercussions were enormous. Military strategists began revising threat models. Scientific teams scrambled to reclassify Earth and its inhabitants. Colonies that had once ignored human warnings began fortifying defenses, fearing that if humans could approach a venom glider unscathed, they could do the same with other lethal organisms, or even with weapons of mass destruction. Yet, there was something more profound happening: curiosity. Despite fear, there was admiration. Every species that witnessed Daniel's calm touch on the lethal creature began asking questions. Could they learn from humans? Could they replicate this composure, this instinctive courage? Some thought perhaps it was genetic. Some thought it was training. Some thought it was sheer luck. But the consensus slowly emerged. There was something fundamentally different about humans. Something that couldn't be measured, predicted, or controlled. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, rival species whispered quietly among themselves. The Kethari, known for their strategic cunning, began sending reconnaissance fleets to observe human colonies. The Luminari scholars drafted reports on human resilience, proposing new studies of their neural pathways, reflexes, and survival instincts. And even the Val Dominion, the galaxy's most feared military power, began cautiously revising their engagement protocols. Humans could no longer be underestimated. On Kepri 9, the venom glider's habitat was now under constant observation. Scientists hoped to repeat the experiment, but none dared approach as Daniel had. Every attempt to interact with the creature ended in panic or failure. The lesson was clear. Humans didn't just survive, they understood danger in ways no other species could. Daniel's calm, deliberate touch had become a legendary event, immortalized in databases, reports, and even entertainment holos across human and alien worlds. It was replayed, dissected, and analyzed over and over, and every replay increased the growing mythos surrounding humanity. And Daniel himself? He remained the same quiet observer, ever curious, ever calm. To him, the danger wasn't thrilling, it was a challenge, a puzzle. And solving puzzles was what humans did best. In the weeks following the encounter, Earth received countless messages from alien species requesting cooperation, sharing research, and even proposing alliances. Humans were no longer just a new species in the galaxy. They were a force to be reckoned with, a species whose courage, ingenuity, and instinct had just rewritten centuries of assumptions. For Daniel Reeves and humanity, the message was clear: fear was temporary. Understanding was permanent. And the galaxy had just received its first lesson in what humans could do when they touched the impossible. As the stars glimmered across the void, whispers spread. If one human could calmly touch a venom glider, what else could they survive? And with that question lingering in every corner of the galaxy, the legend of humanity grew, not just as survivors, but as masters of the impossible. The galaxy was no longer the same. News of Daniel Reeves' calm and deliberate touch of the venom glider spread like a supernova across every inhabited star system. Fleet commanders, diplomats, scientists, and strategists all debated what it meant for humanity. But for Daniel, there was no time to revel in fame or analysis. Humanity had been sent to observe, not to showcase. And if the galaxy had learned one thing from Kepri 9, it was that danger was not an obstacle. It was a lesson. Within days, Daniel and his team were dispatched to a cluster of worlds long considered untouchable. Regions where life forms could crush, poison, or incinerate any intruder in moments. Worlds that had earned their reputations for lethal biodiversity. The first target was the Syndral Expanse, a network of volcanic planets inhabited by the flame serpents, giant, fire-breathing predators whose mere presence could ignite the air. Entire alien research teams had perished attempting to map their behavior. Many colonies had abandoned exploration attempts entirely. Daniel's approach was calm, calculated. Every step was measured, Every observation meticulously noted. Unlike other species, humans didn't charge in with fear or weapons. They moved with curiosity and patience. The flame serpents were exactly as terrifying as predicted. Their scales shimmered with molten energy, their eyes glowed like embers, and every breath sent clouds of flame rippling across the rocky landscape. Automated sensors screamed alarms the moment Daniel's suit penetrated the perimeter. But Daniel didn't flinch. He studied, he waited, and slowly he began to interact, not with dominance, not with aggression, but with understanding. He observed the serpents' patterns, the way they shifted weight on jagged rock, the micro-movements of their scales when agitated, the rhythm of their fiery exhalations. He adjusted his breathing, his stance, and even his hand movements, mimicking subtle gestures the creatures responded to. The aliens monitoring from orbit were stunned. On their displays, what should have been a catastrophic death scenario turned into something almost cooperative. Flame serpents that had destroyed every probe or trespassing alien now paused, watched, and even allowed Daniel close enough to take samples for study, without a single attack. "The human is adapting to their biology," muttered one astonished xenobiologist. "He isn't invincible. He's learning how they perceive danger and adjusting instinctively." This is beyond prediction. This pattern repeated over the next weeks. On the Cryon, 7 ice plains, humans carefully navigated around territorial glacial leviathans, creatures whose bite could crush reinforced exoskeletons in one motion. Instead of triggering aggression, humans used deliberate calm and timing, allowing the leviathans to pass and even observe them. On Vortex 12, a storm-racked gas giant moon, Daniel's team studied electric swarmers, airborne predators that disintegrated metal and flesh on contact. Humans survived through careful movement, shielding techniques, and a keen understanding of predator behavior. Other species could not replicate it. Attempts by alien scientists to do the same ended in disaster. Every encounter reinforced the same realization. Humans were not lucky. They were different in a fundamental way. Other species survived through instinct, armor, or avoidance. Humans survived through curiosity, observation, and adaptability. They touched what others feared, learned from it, and left unharmed. Meanwhile, news from the Galactic Council was explosive. Debates erupted over how to classify humanity now. Was Earth a moderate risk, a strategic ally, or a threat beyond comprehension? Diplomatic envoys scrambled to revise treaties and protocols. Some species lobbied for restrictions, fearing that humans could reach, touch, and survive threats no other civilization could withstand. Others advocated for cooperation, hoping to learn from their methods. Humans are a force multiplier, a Vol Dominion commander finally admitted in a classified report. They turn danger into opportunity. They don't just adapt, they dominate circumstances that should be fatal. Even the Galactic Council, composed of centuries-old leaders, convened emergency sessions to discuss the implications. Military tacticians, xenobiologists, and diplomats argued, shouted, and debated, but the conclusion was inescapable. Humans had rewritten the rules of survival. On Earth's ship, Daniel remained focused. Fame and legend meant nothing if the mission failed. Danger, he understood, was a tool for learning. Fear was an indicator, not a barrier. And every species, every lethal creature, was a chance to study, understand, and survive. Yet, even as Daniel engaged with new creatures, word of his earlier encounter with the Venom glider spread faster than his team could move. Videos, holo recordings, and live sensor data went viral across countless worlds. Every human attempt to engage dangerous species was scrutinized, dissected, and admired. For the aliens watching, it was impossible to deny. Humans were a new benchmark for resilience. They didn't just survive death worlds, they thrived in them. They didn't just interact with lethal species, they changed their behavior. One ambassador whispered to another in disbelief. If a human can touch a Venom glider, what else can they do? What other impossibilities have they mastered without us knowing? And the truth was terrifying. Humans were unpredictable, patient, and fearless, but also relentless in understanding danger. They didn't rely on instinct alone. They didn't rely on brute force. They relied on ingenuity and observation, combined with a willingness to act when others froze. That willingness would define humanity's place in the galaxy. It would inspire fear, respect, and awe in equal measure. As Daniel's team left each dangerous world unharmed, a single realization echoed across the galaxy. Humans were not merely survivors. They were pioneers of the impossible, capable of achieving what no other species dare to try. And every species, from allies to rivals, now had to reckon with one undeniable fact. The human touch was a force that could redefine life and death itself. The galaxy could no longer ignore humanity. Across star systems, from the cold research stations of the Luminari to the heavily fortified command ships of the Val Dominion, discussions, debates, and outright panic filled the halls of power. One question dominated every conversation. Who were these humans, and how had they survived what no other species could? High-ranking diplomats and military leaders convened in emergency sessions, their alien forms silhouetted against towering holoscreens displaying Daniel Rhee's encounter with the Venom glider. Every detail of the event was scrutinized. His calm demeanor, his measured movements, the creature's unexpected response. "It defies logic," Ambassador Helio whispered to a fellow counselor. "Our predictions failed. All our simulations, nothing prepared us for this." SRR Ka, the biologist, leaned forward, her claws tapping nervously on the table. "It's not just luck. Humans possess neural adaptability, reflexes, and instincts unlike anything recorded in our databanks. They approach danger differently. They don't avoid it, they engage with it. And somehow they survive." Commanders, generals, and tacticians all echoed the same sentiment. Humans were now a wild card. They couldn't be predicted, calculated, or controlled. Every species that had faced humans, or even observed them, was forced to reconsider centuries of assumptions. The Val Dominion issued new directives, instructing all fleets to reassess human encounters. Reports flooded in from border patrols, trading vessels, and exploration missions. Humans were touching environments and creatures previously deemed untouchable. They survived storms, predators, and conditions that should have annihilated them. Even alien intelligence agencies, known for their meticulous planning and cold logic, struggled to reconcile the anomaly. "We must study them," one Ketheri operative admitted. "Not for diplomacy, not for cooperation, but to understand what makes them so fundamentally different. They're a variable no species has accounted for." Meanwhile, Earth's communication relays were flooded with requests for alliances, cooperation, and strategic counsel. Entire species sought guidance, hoping to learn from humans' fearless approach to danger. Yet, Daniel Rhees and his team remained cautious. Fame and legend did not distract them from their mission. Exploration, observation, understanding. Each encounter with a new species reinforced the growing mythos of humanity. On Kepri 9, the Venom glider's encounter became a case study. On the Syndral Expanse, flame serpents were studied not through containment or attack, but through careful observation of human methods. On Cryon 7, glacial leviathans were documented, analyzed, and respected in ways never attempted before. The galaxy began to understand a fundamental truth. Humans didn't just survive, they transformed the impossible into the possible. Diplomatic envoys across star systems struggled to articulate the concept. "They don't just adapt," one ambassador explained. "They interact with danger. They understand it. And when the galaxy thought they would fail, they didn't." Strategists were equally unsettled. Battle plans, containment protocols, and engagement models had to be rewritten. Humans were no longer just another species in the galactic catalog. They were an unpredictable force, capable of surviving encounters that had ended the lives of countless other civilizations. In council chambers, Debates raged over whether humans should be allies, monitored, or contained. Some argued that cooperation was the only path forward, leveraging human insight for mutual survival. Others warned that humans were a threat, capable of turning any lethal environment into a playground. Back aboard Daniel's ship, he observed the unfolding chaos calmly. For him, danger was never a spectacle. It was a tool for learning. Each species, each predator, each deadly phenomenon was an opportunity to understand and grow. Humans thrived where others feared. They touched what others avoided. They survived what others died to escape. And every observation, every interaction, every careful touch added to their legend. Across the galaxy, beings who once dismissed humanity now whispered their name with awe and sometimes fear. The humans, Ambassador Helia finally admitted, her voice heavy with realization. They aren't just another species. They're something else, something extraordinary. Even the council leaders, ancient beings who had survived countless conflicts and catastrophic events, found themselves re-evaluating the place of humans in galactic society. A single encounter, Daniel's calm touch of a venom glider, had catalyzed a shift in perception. Reports from fleets, colonies, and research stations described a pattern. Wherever humans went, danger seemed manageable in ways other species couldn't replicate. They weren't invincible. They were intelligent, observant, and fearless. They didn't rely on brute strength. They relied on understanding, strategy, and instinct. Every species watching realized an unsettling fact. Humans could not be underestimated. The galaxy had witnessed one human touch a lethal predator and survive. What else could they accomplish? What other impossible feats were within their reach? In the months that followed, humans became both revered and feared. Diplomatic envoys sought guidance. Scientists requested observation privileges. Military strategists recalculated threat assessments. And Daniel Reeves, the human who had initiated it all, continued his mission calmly, unaware that his actions had sparked a revolution in perception across the stars. One thing was certain: the legend of humanity was only beginning. The galaxy had learned a new rule. Do not underestimate humans. They survive, they adapt, and they touch what others fear to even approach. As Daniel's ship faded into the starlight, countless eyes followed him, some with admiration, some with dread, and all with the knowledge that the galaxy would never view humans the same way again. And far across the stars, whispers spread like wildfire. If one human could touch a venom glider, what else could they survive? The galaxy now knew humanity was a force of impossible courage and unpredictable ingenuity. The galaxy shivered. It wasn't fear of war. It wasn't fear of alien politics. It was fear of humans themselves. Months after Daniel Reeves' legendary encounter with the Venom glider, the galaxy's leaders received disturbing reports. A rogue faction of Evolved Dominion had seized control of a dangerous research hub on the edge of the known galaxy. The hub contained volatile life forms, experimental weaponry, and knowledge that, if misused, could obliterate entire colonies. Panic swept through the Galactic Council. Communication lines burned with urgent messages. Fleets scrambled to intercept the rogue Dominion forces, and scientists predicted catastrophic outcomes if the situation escalated. And once again, humanity was called upon. Daniel's mission was clear: assess the threat, contain it, and ensure minimal casualties, human or alien. But unlike other species, humans didn't just confront danger. They calculated it, understood it, and turned it into an advantage. The first obstacle was the hub's defenses. Automated turrets, laser grids, and drone swarms surrounded the facility. Most species would have launched a full-scale assault, risking massive loss of life. Humans? Daniel and his team approached with precision and observation. They studied patrol patterns, energy signatures, and structural weaknesses. They didn't charge blindly. They waited for the right moment. As the Dominion drones scanned the perimeter, Daniel activated his team's stealth protocols, slipping past sensors with a combination of technology and timing. Within minutes, they were inside the hub. The life forms contained within were terrifying. Predators genetically engineered for warfare, organisms with venom faster than any natural evolution could produce, and sentient creatures trained to resist interrogation. Any other species would have panicked. Humans analyzed, measured, and interacted intelligently. Daniel moved carefully, observing the first predator, a bioluminescent Zyrax, whose claws could pierce reinforced steel. Instead of attacking, he extended his hand, mirroring the calm technique he had used with the venom glider. The Zyrax hesitated, studied him, and then retreated, allowing Daniel's team to pass. The aliens monitoring the mission couldn't believe it. One scientist whispered, "They're controlling the situation without combat. It's unprecedented." But the crisis wasn't over. Dominion forces had begun a counterattack, and communication grids were compromised. Humans were now outnumbered, surrounded by lethal life forms and facing advanced weaponry. Yet they remained calm. Daniel issued orders, not with panic, but with precision. Every human moved in coordinated silence, using the environment, their understanding of predator behavior, and the enemy's expectations against them. Each move minimized risk, neutralized threats, and secured strategic points. When the Dominion commander appeared, expecting a confrontation, Daniel spoke. "We don't want war. We want containment. Let us handle the life forms, and no one will get hurt." The Dominion hesitated. They had underestimated humans before, but not twice. As Daniel's team began neutralizing hazards, alien fleets arrived to assist, only to find that the humans had already stabilized the facility. Systems damaged by the Dominion were repaired. Lethal life forms were secured. Hostages were unharmed. And when the Dominion forces attempted an attack, humans used psychological tactics and adaptive strategy, turning the enemy's aggression against them. The outcome was unprecedented. A potentially catastrophic situation was resolved with minimal casualties, all thanks to humans' unique combination of courage, intelligence, and instinctive understanding of danger. Reports spread like wildfire. Humans neutralized the rogue Vol Dominion faction without firing a single destructive weapon. They controlled predators that could have annihilated entire fleets. They survived situations no other species could endure. The Galactic Council convened again. For the first time, they admitted openly, humans weren't just resilient, they were redefining survival itself. Daniel returned to Earth's ship, mission complete. No medals, no ceremonies, just calm observation and a quiet note in the log. Danger is not to be feared, it is to be understood. Across the galaxy, whispers grew into legends. Stories of a single human touching a lethal venom glider became tales of entire human teams mastering hostile worlds, taming deadly life forms, and confronting threats other species would not dare approach. And every species watching realized the same terrifying truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. Ever. The galaxy had seen one human touch a creature that killed with a thought. It had seen humans stabilize a rogue faction with lethal predators. It had seen humans survive what should have been impossible. And it was only the beginning. Because humans didn't just survive, they adapted, learned, and thrived where others fell. The legend of humanity had grown. The galaxy would remember Daniel Reeves, not just as a human, but as the one who proved that the impossible could be reached, the lethal could be touched, and the feared could be faced and lived to tell the tale. The galaxy had changed. No species, no matter how ancient, could ignore the humans any longer. From the frozen laboratories of the Luminari to the fortified battle stations of the Vol Dominion, beings whispered the same word, humans. They were no longer just another species in the galactic catalog. They had become a force of nature, unpredictable, intelligent, and unyielding. One human, Daniel Reeves, had demonstrated what no data, no theory, and no prediction could explain. Humans could survive, adapt, and thrive in situations that should have killed them instantly. The story of the Venom Glider encounter had become legend. Students, scientists, and soldiers replayed the footage repeatedly, trying to comprehend how a fragile human could approach and touch a lethal predator and survive. The explanation eluded them. The sensors, the algorithms, the simulations, all failed to match reality. It wasn't strength. It wasn't armor. It wasn't luck. It was human ingenuity, observation, and courage. Daniel had not sought glory. He had acted with calm and curiosity, the same qualities that defined humanity's approach to the universe. And the galaxy had taken notice. Diplomatic halls were filled with debate. Some argued that humans were too dangerous to be trusted. Others argued that they were the key to understanding lethal environments and uncharted worlds. Plans were drafted, treaties reconsidered, and alliances reshaped. Humanity had become the ultimate wild card in galactic politics. Meanwhile, humans themselves remained humble. Daniel and his team continued their mission of exploration and understanding. They moved from world to world, encountering species and phenomena others feared to even study. Flame serpents, glacial leviathans, electric swarmers, all were approached not with fear, but with observation and deliberate interaction. Every encounter reinforced the same truth. Humans didn't just survive, they transformed danger into understanding. Where other species saw a predator or a deadly environment, humans saw a puzzle. Where others froze in fear, humans acted with insight. And that insight turned impossible odds into manageable challenges. Reports from alien observers flooded in. They neutralized threats without combat, one admiral noted. They survive exposure that would kill entire squads. They interact with predators and lethal species without harm. Their instinct is not just for survival, it is for mastery. The Galactic Council finally convened a formal session to address humanity's growing influence. Ambassadors from countless species debated whether humans should be treated as allies, monitored as a threat, or studied as a unique phenomenon. Yet, the consensus was clear. Humans could no longer be ignored. Even the most aggressive factions, like the Val Dominion, revised their protocols. Humans were no longer a species to underestimate or calculate against. They were a new benchmark for what was possible. Back aboard Earth's flagship, Daniel Reeves watched reports come in from every corner of the galaxy. The Venom glider, the Syndril Expanse, the Cryon 7 Ice Planes, and the Rogue Dominion facility, all were now part of humanity's expanding legend. Each story demonstrated the same principle. Humans engaged danger differently. They didn't flee. They didn't dominate through force. They observed, learned, and acted with precision. In time, other species began to follow humanity's example. Alien researchers, inspired by humans' calm approach, attempted to study predators and deadly environments with patience and understanding rather than fear or aggression. Some succeeded, but none could match the instinctive intuition of humans. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Survival was not just about strength or technology. It was about intelligence, courage, and the willingness to face the impossible head-on. Daniel's actions had sparked a cultural shift. Humans were celebrated, feared, and respected. They were now the ultimate example of what sentient life could achieve when it combined curiosity with courage. The Venom glider incident became a symbol, a reminder that even the most lethal threats could be approached with understanding. The story of humanity touching the untouchable spread across star systems, inspiring generations of explorers, scientists, and leaders. Even centuries later, historians would mark that moment as the turning point in galactic perception. One human, standing calm before a deadly creature, had changed the galaxy's understanding of life, survival, and courage forever. Daniel Reeves' legacy, like humanity itself, was now unstoppable. The message was clear. Fear is temporary. Danger is an opportunity. The impossible can be touched. And the galaxy would remember, always, that humans were not just survivors. They were masters of the impossible. As stars shimmered across the void, and alien eyes watched from countless worlds, one truth resonated above all. If a human could calmly touch a Venom glider and survive, there was no limit to what humanity could face and overcome. The galaxy had learned a new rule. Do not underestimate humanity. Ever. And so, the legend continued, whispered in awe across star systems, written in the logs of scientists and soldiers alike, and remembered as the moment the galaxy realized that humans weren't just part of the universe. They were its challenge, its mystery, and its inspiration.